It is the 1st of September today, getting towards the end of the day, so feeling a little bit tired, probably got a few bags under my eyes, but couldn't contain my excitement today because, to be honest with you, I've been waiting for something for a long time with all the leaks and everything. Today, my son and I managed to get into Exeter, get ourselves a few copies of these guys, the brand new minifigure series based on the Dungeons and Dragons game. And to be honest with you, I've been waiting for these minifigures for such a long time. They're just brilliant. I think that's all in all kind of what I'm thinking about this complete series. 12 minifigures, very, very different, and in all fairness, such an incredible minifigure series. I'm wanting to tell you my thoughts about them, so stick around and let's see what you think. So, as I said, there's been 12 minifigures altogether. So they are actually divided up into, I think there's 5 baddies and 7 goodies, roughly speaking. And if you look at the instructions actually in the figures, so you get them in the pack, you can actually tell roughly, if you're not into Dungeons and Dragons, which I really am not, but they're figured from the colours that they have. You have got the ones with little blue squares and then some with little red squares. So that's how I figured out, roughly speaking. You can kind of tell from the figures, can't you? But yeah, that kind of just really cemented which ones were actually goodies and baddies, because in all fairness, one of them I thought was going to be a goodie, but it turned out to actually be a bad witch, not a good witch. So I thought I'd like to just kind of show you the figures and tell you what I think, probably presenting them from maybe the baddies and then the goodies. In my mind, I think, hands down, the goodies are by far and away the better of the minifigs. But there are just so many excellent figures out there. So starting off, I think with my least favourite is actually the Mind Flayer minifig, which is this one here, which, I mean, in all fairness, it is an interesting figure. It reminded me a lot of Doctor Who and those kind of characters. And it comes with a little brain sort of dog, which I think is a fun little addition. But I'm just not overly sure of the context of it. So Dungeons Dragons fans, please enlighten me. But from the minifigure point of view, I've got to say the body is really nice, actually, with the printing that we've got on let me just try and get it in focus here. On the torso and actually on both arms, we've got really nice sort of armor type printing, it seems to be, and then on the back as well. The printing on the actual sort of skirt is very, very simple, but that's to be kind of expected, I would say. As a whole, as a minifigure, I think if I was sort of going to give that a mark out of sort of 10, I think in my mind it would probably actually be sort of a 4, 5 maybe. Just the dress and the actual headpiece, I think, is just for me not my cup of tea. I think the headpiece is interesting and possibly will make some interesting fantasy type characters, but yeah, again, not overly interesting in my mind. So the next figure we've got is the Lady of Pain. So that's this figure here, which in my mind, the immediate thing I saw when seeing this character was just, looks like an Aztec sort of god of death or something along those lines. Really interesting headpiece. I like the colours actually with the gold and the kind of the olive kind of green colour, really nice. But just as a whole, quite a big clash of colours, which is interesting. Lots of orange, so the cape is nice and bright orange as well. And you can see on the back that we've got printing on the back here as well. So it kind of follows round that this sort of helmet seems to sort of go down. Really nice printing on the skirt here. On this particular figure, there's no printing on the arms at all, but a nice little accessory of some kind of rune, presumably for sort of spell making. So for me, the thing I didn't like about this figure was that when I originally put the mask on, it really seemed to be stuck in sort of like an upright position. That seems to have kind of adjusted, but it's made of this kind of rubbery material, so I'm wondering if maybe that's kind of been bent a little bit and maybe the shape kind of distorts that a little bit. But as a whole, I think a little bit better than the Mind Flayer. So I'd say in my mind, for this figure, I'd say it's probably like a 5.5 out of 10. Decent figure, could be better. I know this is the Zas Tam figure, skeleton sort of sorcerer. Just not a great figure, in all honesty. I mean, I think it's a really nice head print. I really, really like that headpiece, and it's got actually printing around the back as well. So actually that piece for me is sort of stand out. I really like that. but I can just imagine it with a cowl. I mean, that's just perfect to have a sort of a cowl on. And again, the chest piece, really quite a nice one. Just showing the rib cage there. The dress piece, again, sort of just very simplistic. I would have maybe quite liked to have seen something going down sort of the middle of it here, like a nice sort of, I don't know, just the robe kind of going around. But let's come with the 2 actual pieces for the cape, just to give it that more of a sort of warlock type look. And then at the back, we've also got some simple printing there again. This one comes with 2 accessories. Actually, so this is actually a pretty cool accessory, the translucent red skull piece there, which I think is quite fun. And I can see people probably playing around with that in mocks. And then just one of the kind of the energy effects as well in translucent orange. So again, probably similar, I would say, to the Aztec type character. 4 or 5, I'd probably stick on 5 out of 10 for that one. And then rounding off the baddies, then we've got the Queen of the Witches. And actually this one I think is a lot of fun. I actually really like this figure. This to me is absolutely brilliant. So she has got an absolutely amazing printing on the torso there. Let's just remove the accessories. Let's just quickly talk about the accessories. So she's got a nice little book there with a nice front cover and a really nice style of book as well. Not overly convinced about this printing in the middle. Is it some kind of laughing spell? Kind of a jinx of some kind? And then a nice cauldron with a translucent pink flame, so you get a couple in there in the pack. One of those nice little ones. No handle though on this one. Not sure if that was just a sort of an oversight or they were just thinking it would be in the ground, so it didn't need a handle. But let's pop that down. So my immediate thoughts when I actually saw this figure, which got printing again all the way around, so on the front, on the torso, on both arms, really nice sort of printing with these kind of leather type of straps, and then lovely printing on the legs. And the printing actually continues if we take her head off, and you can see her expression next to the double-sided face. Here on the back as well. Just really nice detail, and you can kind of imagine a cowl going on her head, which is hidden on this actual figure by an amazing headpiece. But I was just thinking Geralt of Rivia or something along those lines, maybe a rogue, an assassin of some kind. Just really, really nice detail. So for me, this one actually gets a strong sort of 8, 9 out of 10. I think the things that maybe let it down, the accessories actually. The book I really like, but the cauldron I'm just not overly convinced by. Yeah, as a whole, I'd say a strong 8 out of 10 figure. So moving on to the goodies. This is really quite difficult because in all fairness, I like all of them for different reasons. And the thing which I really like, so let's just show you them all side by side. The thing I really like about them is the interchangeability. So this is something that I haven't seen before in LEGO minifigures. And of these 6 figures, so there are humanoid figures mainly. Actually, sorry, there's 7 figures. Of the 7 good sort of figures, oh, I forgot to actually talk about one of the baddies, haven't I? So this actually is the Strad von Zarovich. It's a vampire. Couldn't forget the vampire. Absolutely love vampires. This actually, in my mind, is the best of the evil characters, if you will. Really amazing printing for this figure. And actually, again, all the way around. So really, really nice printing on the torso and on the legs. Again, going on with the kind of the armor, with the kind of the pauldrons again on the shoulders. I just think it's just such a lot of detail has actually gone into these. So you can see on the same on both sides. And then with the back, let's get his hairpiece off. That really nice printing, which suggests that he's got his cape on, which it comes with, nice dark blue cape. And then suggestive of a bit of sort of fur coming down on the shoulder there as well. Look at it. And that's him with his 2 expressions. So you've got the simple look. I'm just recording Lucas, so good night. And then the sort of angry face there. With Lucas, who's coming back to see the figures again, absolutely loves these. He's got a couple of his own. So if you want to come around, you can come sit up here and say hello.
To who?
I'm just recording. Stick your head in. Right, hello.
Hello.
Because we're recording late at night, so you're going off to bed now, aren't you? No. Did you want to say good night? Sleep tight. So the accessories that comes with one of the kind of Lord of the Rings style swords, and then just a goblet as well. And it comes with a little rat figure as well, which is a really nice rat, black with red eyes, I think it is. Really cool effect. I really like the rats.
Red and white.
Okay, good night now. Yeah, for me, this is just an incredible figure. Really, really like this one. And I'm going to see him as a kind of a leader of vampires in an army that I'll probably be building with the previous CMF series. And yeah, really excited by that. So there'll be some content coming soon. So stick around to check that out. So now going back to our goodies. So we've actually got sort of two non-human type goodies. So we've got the paladin,
I got him too.
the dragon. Okay. And then we've got also the hawk. So let's talk about the hawk first. So actually these are two that I really wanted to have for potential sort of army building. So I can really imagine the hawk being some kind of ally to elves possibly, but a really cool headpiece here. I really love the printing on the torso and the legs. And if you actually take the head off, the printing again extends to the back, which is just such a nice detail. Because when you look at it, you wouldn't see the printing if you had the wings on. So in my mind, I can't help but think that LEGO was really thinking that we were going to be customizing these and creating armies. Just so interchangeable. And again, just the detail that you've got on here is just absolutely incredible. This one actually comes with a lovely little accessory as well. Now we couldn't figure out if it was a wolf, if it was a dog, but there's a little sort of wolf dog, basically a little puppy of some kind, but really nice with a little nose printing there. A cub. The one thing I didn't personally like, and you'll probably see it in the shorts where I've filmed, I've got with kind of building all these minifigures, is the material of the bow. So the bow is just such a pain to actually fit on here. So I think again it's made of slightly more flexible plastic compared to some of the older bows. But love the shape of it and love the look of it. Just it was an absolute pain to actually clip onto the figure's hand. So just for that reason, I think that one actually sort of knocks it down a mark. But I would say again, I'd give it a strong 8. I think if the bow had been better, it would have been an easy 9 out of 10. And moving on to the paladin. Now the paladin, I've got to confess, we got how many of these today?
11, but one's mine.
Yeah, we've got 11 of these in total. These were for me sort of an easy, I've got to get loads of these, unfortunately. I definitely will be army building with these ones, but I'm trying to figure out if they'll be incorporated in some of my existing army or it's changed into something different. Yeah, the shoulder pads are brilliant. So let's just see that one again in a bit more detail. So just incredible printing on the armor here. And actually on the legs, you can see the printing is actually, again, on all 3 sides of the legs. So nothing on the back, but you don't expect to have printing necessarily on the back of legs unless it's dual molded. But if we get rid of his scepter, I mean, the scepter's worth talking about, or the actual weapon, with this lovely sort of translucent top piece here. And with a blue stick, which is a really interesting choice of colour. But if, again, let's have a look at the shield. Lovely looking shield. So if we actually sort of break this one apart and take the head off, although we'll have a quick look at the head there. Really nice printing. Came in with sort of 3 little horn pieces or tooth pieces in the back. So you can essentially change those to actually make different coloured ones. And then actually when you look at the actual figure and the body in itself, it's just begging for all sorts of different styles. Again, printing on the torso, on the arms, on the back and on the front. So you can easily flip these around and change the orientation of the figures, and it will just make so many options of customizing your figures. Just again, incredible. Absolutely love this one. For me, it's a strong, easy 10 out of 10 for this one. And the armor, yeah, I mean, you can change the armor onto another army personnel, and just absolutely incredible. So moving on now to some of our other figures. So this is when it gets really interesting with this minifigure series. So we've got those sort of the 5 humanoid type characters, and no particular order. We've got them here. And what I really love about these ones is there's even more customizability with heads. So actually you can change the gender, which I think is really interesting. So all of the heads have 2 facial expressions, but you can have sort of a female version or a male version. So if we go through those, the little druid, let's start off with. So he comes with 2 little accessories actually. Let's get the little bird here. So just a simple sort of staff with a couple of leaves and a flower element. And then this nice little bird with actually a bit of printing on the top of the head of the bird there, which is again really nice little details that they put into here. But just as a whole, this figure I think is just a lot of fun. So if we look at it again in a bit more detail, starting at the top, just the cowl, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I can see this being used for elves, I can see it being used for sort of forest men, all sorts of figures, fantasy type figures, incredible head mold there. Then moving on to the body, again, such a lot of customizability, wood elves, forest men, all sorts of woodland type of creatures. Really love it. The dual colour on the cape, before I forget about that, I didn't notice it straight away. We've got brown on one side and then the green on the other side. Again, such incredible detail, so you can actually change it around. And in my mind, naturally, I'm thinking this one's in the middle of a forest, so it's going to be on the green side, but easy to change it. And again, some lovely printing on the back, which again, easy, I can see flipping the arms around and actually then having a completely different figure. Putting different styles of legs to make them taller or shorter. And then if we look at the two different faces, so which one's that one? In my mind, this one I think is better as a male figure. Not all of them are, but in my mind I'm seeing this one is definitely on the better side as a male figure. That's the male version there. Focus. There we go. Really cool figure. For me, the only thing that kind of lets it down, but I think it's a bit hard to print on the shorter legs, but the lack of printing on the legs in terms of details, and again, lack of printing on the arm pieces. So when you've got them for some of them, you kind of potentially expect it for all of them. So that sort of probably knocks it down to maybe sort of a 7.5 out of 10 for that one. I think we'll do the Bard next. So the Bard, absolutely love this figure. Just the colour comparison to the other figures makes it really interesting. And I think it just fits the character of a bard perfectly. So without further ado, so this one comes with a unique printing on a lute, which is just such nice detail, and perfect also from an elvish type of character. And then with the golden sort of cutlass type sword, similar to kind of the pirate. So the sword, yeah, wasn't overly sort of bothered by that one. I can understand the reason for a sword as opposed to kind of a knife, but still, yeah, for me personally, not necessarily needed. I think it would have been fine just with the loot. And actually, in a lot of these kind of fantasy type games, they often just have, a singer or some kind of bard. I'm thinking about The Witcher. I'm thinking about some of the other video games which have gone out of my head right now. But yeah, going to the actual figure itself. Again, lovely printing, and I think lovely detail with having that kind of scarf element matching the colour of the gloves. But we've got the really nice printing with the actual sort of jacket, and then lovely printing detail on the legs there. So no printing on the side on this one, because I think for this one it's not as much of a problem because it's a shirt, obviously, underneath the waistcoat. So I don't see that really as a problem. But when you look at it at the back, and what we'll do is we'll put the male head on afterwards. Again, just lovely detail here. Now this one probably not quite as interchangeable in terms of the back, but I still see that as being a potential front, potentially even for like an undersuit for armor. Just absolutely love it. But again, the interchangeable head. So in my mind, I'm thinking for this one, it would probably more likely be a male head. I think that's probably just from my notion of, again, video games and the Bard being mainly male type characters. But what was really fun was when my daughter saw these, she changed them all to female heads, and it was so easy to do. And you can kind of understand that from a point of view of the different fans that we've got available. The male fans will probably stick to the more male type characters and vice versa. So just lovely figure, but you choose, and it's completely up to you what you prefer to do. But with fun, again, two versions of the faces, so you can actually have them sort of singing or just have them a simple facial expression. So for me, for this one, again, the printing on the arms and things, not so much of an issue with this one. I'd say a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really like this one, and the loot is just incredible. Really love the loot piece. So the last three, which I've got to say are probably some of my favourites. Let's start with the dwarf figure. This is actually the only one my daughter's put with a male head. Actually looking at them, actually maybe not with the other ones. But this one in my mind is an automatic female. So this is the dwarf warrior. Incredible, absolutely love this figure. This one actually has the movable legs as opposed to the non-movable legs that we have with the druid. So that's another kind of letdown from this one compared to the dwarf. But I guess technically the dwarf is a little bit taller, so the legs are actually slightly longer, and therefore they've got the ability to be flexible and not just rigid legs. But accessory-wise, this axe piece, absolutely love it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Warhammer kind of axe. But just brilliant little piece here. And then you've got a simple little torch as well. So nothing particularly special there, but just matches the character nicely. Printing, none on the legs, but on the torso, we've got it again all around with the arm printing. So with this one, you can just imagine that dwarf being on somewhere cold, on a mountain somewhere, or deep within a mine, you know, wearing multiple layers of clothing with the neck piece as well. Lovely printing on the front there with the inverted axe, and then on the back as well, lovely printing with that horn piece there. So again, really easy to flip. So I know there's a bit of controversy possibly within the hair piece. So sort of ginger hair piece with a ginger beard on a sort of darkened skinned figure, which in my mind I think is probably okay, but it looks just sort of female style hair. But when I saw the advertising for it, I just thought this is a female dwarf, beard or beardless, as Gimli would probably say. I would say just the female figure just looks incredible. Absolutely love it. So I can't wait to sort of put her in with my dwarf minifigures. And I think she would fit in perfectly with a fantasy world like Lord of the Rings, or you know, more of the kind of medieval style building, if you do incorporate a little bit of fantasy in there as well. Just brilliant builds. And I think bar the Paladin, which I have to say is in the strong sort of figures as well, I think these two are probably my favourites. So we've got the Warlock and then the Sorceress. So let's go with the Warlock first. So we've got the male Warlock figure here. Really nice printing on the head. There's some really nice detail here. So it comes with two accessories. This kind of eyeball scepter, which is quite cool. And a purple eye, the all-seeing eye, and a really lovely little knife piece. So I really like this piece. It reminds me a little bit of a kunai for anyone who's into sort of anime and kind of throwing knives like you have in sort of Naruto type manga. Just really nice, unique piece. I haven't seen that one before. And then the printing. So dual molded legs on this one with printing on the front, on the back of the torso as well. No printing on the arms here, so maybe a little bit let down by that. But as you can see, sort of potions and a slingshot. No, it's potions and a key on the back. And then we've got this amazing, lovely necklace at the front. There. So again, just a really nice figure. With a couple of expressions again, so in kind of battle mode here, and then we've got it in the kind of the normal poses there. Let's change it out for the female head. And typically the female head has got a smiley face on one side, so that's maybe one thing that's a little bit on the kind of the simplistic side, but again, really lovely detail there on the printing and this kind of this golden pattern around. I think they call it a Gith warlord, so I'm wondering, a Gith warlock, so I'm wondering if that's potentially related to the species that they're on. But again, they've got the elven ears, and interesting, this is the only yellow figured, so yellow skin toned minifigure. So as we've seen, the dwarf has the kind of the darkened skin minifigure, and then we have got the bard with a slightly pale skin tone, and then the little druid halfling has the slightly darker kind of salmon or darker pink skin tone, and then the sorcerer, which is a tiefling sorcerer with a little tail at the back. So these have got this kind of orangey skin tone, but again, this is an incredible character. I really love this minifigure. Incredible printing, so really nice accessory to start off with the kind of the energy blast effect, and probably one of the nicest accessories as well. Incredible dragon. Now I wonder, tell me if I'm right, but is this potentially a baby version of the dragon that you get in the D&D set? A really nice massive D&D set that my son keeps on saying, will Father Christmas get it to me? But we'll see. I think that might be a bit too expensive for Santa, but don't tell him. really amazing printing detail here. And I just want to kind of go around this one nice and slowly. But amazing printing on the legs. Again, dual molded legs with printing. Lovely printing on the arms there with that bracelet and shoulder pad detail. And as you can see here, it's slightly different detailing on the bracelet on this side. Two faces for the female character, and then two faces on the male character if we quickly change those. So for me, I would say there's one massive letdown of this figure, and I don't know if it's possible to change it or not, but I originally made this one as a male character. I think it does look better as a female character. Ooh, forgot the hairpiece. It's probably filming while you're trying to sort of do it. The one thing I really don't like about this minifigure is that orange line in the middle because of the tail piece. It just looks like it's showing its midriff, and I just think it kind of ruins the flow of the figure. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind if they've got like a sort of crop top style top on, but it just doesn't work. So if there was a way of that having been a purple element at the start of this tail element, so having potentially this bit here in purple and having the tail in orange, I don't know if that's possible with their moulding, that would have just basically fixed the figure. That does kind of spoil the figure off for me, so I think from that point of view it drops a few points here, but I would say in the female figure less noticeable, but yeah, probably I think 7.5 for that one. So bearing that in mind, I think it does come down to our three main favourites, two of which I always knew were going to be my favourites, and that was going to be the dwarf and then the dragon sort of paladin. But I've got to say the warlock is definitely up there at the same sort of level. Incredible figures. And then closely behind, with a couple of faults, we've got the sorceress and we've got the vampire. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to quickly edit this video as quickly as possible, because I really wanted to kind of release the review on day one. I hope you've managed to find the figures that you were looking for. It was quite a bit of a search. We actually go through 4 boxes in the shop that we bought them from. But don't forget that these minifigure series have the very handy QR code. There's a few different apps out there that will help you to identify exactly what's in the box. I used Brick Search, but there are plenty of other ones available. I used that for the last few minifigure series, and it's worked very well so far. So hopefully you get fun finding all the figures that you want, build some armies that you want. I'm probably going to look at maybe making some little mini sort of vignettes for these characters soon, so hopefully that's going to be something that I work on soon when time allows. See you all very soon. Thanks again, and I'm really glad that these have finally come out, so thank you, Lego. See you later.